So now we have Azure AI speech. AI speech. So we can do a lot of things, okay? We can convert speech to text, give your app a voice, translate speech in real time. Um, I can go and verify and recognize speaker, activate your assistant for IoT devices with a custom keyword, add voice command for and free scenario, okay? Like a car, for example. So this is the Azure AI speech. So you can have your SDK here and use your speech studio. Okay, so let's go and have information about what we can do. So the first thing that you can do is do speech to text. So speech to text is an API that enables speech recognition in which your application can accept spoken input. You can have text to speech, so text to speech. Very nice. This, of course, if I have a text recording like a book, for example. So text to speech, it's an API that enable speech synthesis in which your application can provide spoken output. You can have speech translation, so you can have translate speech in real time, okay, in more than 30 language. Not all the language, of course, but that's good. So pre-translation, an API that you can use to translate spoken input into multiple language with your telephone, for example, or you can see the if you have your chat GPT on your phone. Okay. You have also speaker recognition. So I think it's here. Um, okay. Yeah. Speaker recognition, where you have an API that enables your application to recognize individual speaker based on the voice. And you can have intent, of course, activate your assistant. This is like intent. We saw that. Um, Conversation language understanding to determine the semantic meaning of spoken input. Okay, please close the light. Please open the television. Okay, you know, of course, all the uh, like Google Voice or other solution. So uh, in this model, we see how to provision Azure resources, use the speech to text API, to implement speech recognition, use the text to speech API, um, text to speech, or speech to text, and audio format and voices, and also how you can use this fantastic speech synthesis market language, SSML. So we're going to see, of course, important information how to use its API through one of the supported software development SDK, after which you will be able to try Azure AI speech for yourself in a hand-on exercise. So how do you provision the Azure resources? Before you can use Azure AI Speech, you need to create an Azure AI Speech resources. So you can do it. There's two way. Remember that for that you can go on your, you can go here and you can have two solution. Okay, if you go here, you can either use the dedicated Azure AI Speech. So if you type speech here, you have your speech Azure services. You can have these speech services, or you can have this multiple, okay, Azure services, and you will have the multiple services Azure resources. Okay, so that's, remember that here I have one. It's a multiple services. This one, and or you can go here in your speech services, and you can also do create here, okay, no speech, and you can do create speech services. After you create a resource, you need the location and the key, okay, of your services. So let's first see how we can use the Azure AI speech to text API. So we use so the first Azure AI speech services support speech recognition. So we have for speech. So sorry, I don't know how to speak. So for speech. Sorry, no, that's not good at all. I'm writing like Italian, no? Speech. So we have speech. So for the Azure API speech recognition, so recognition, we have two REST API, two REST API. We have the speech to text API. So the primary way to perform speech recognition. And after we have the speech to text short audio. Short audio API. It's optimized for short stream for audio up to 60 seconds. You can use your either API for interactive speech recognition depending on the extended length of the spoken input. You can also use the speech to text API for batch transcription. Okay, so you can also use speech to text API, this one for example, a batch. So you have a lot of speech to text. You have a lot of voice, lots of MP3, or all these supported. Yeah, you can do batch transcription. Transcription. So you have multiple audio to text as a batch operation. So to use the Azure AI speech SDK, so you with the specific data will vary, but depending on the SDK used, like Python or C Sharp or so on, there is a consistent pattern for use the speech to text API. Okay, so let me show you that now. So we're gonna jump in the Microsoft Learn documentation. So here we have in this here we can see let's do a new like that. So I will explain you exactly. So okay, very good. So with the depending on the SDK used, there is some pattern. Okay, you use first a speech config. So it's an object to encapsulate the information required to connect to your Azure AI speech resources. So you have of course, the location and the key. Okay, so this is the location and the key. Optionally, you can have audio config. So to define the input source for the audio to be transcribed, by default, this is the default system microphone. So you can use your microphone if you want. And after you use the speech config, okay, speech config and audio config to create a speech recognizer object. Okay, this will be the result of this or this. And the object is a proxy client for the speech text API. And you can use the method, okay, of course, of the speech recognize, okay, object to call the underlying API function. And for example, the recognize one async here, use the Azure AI speech services to asynchronization transcribe a single spoken utterance. And you can process the response. So this will be the response from the Azure. In the case of recognize once, okay, in sync method, the result in speech recognition result. Okay, this will be the result here. A result. That you will have the duration, you have the offset in text, property, reason, result ID, and text. So if the operation was successful, the reason properties, so you will have the reason here, properties, has the enumerated value recognized speech, okay, recognized speech, and the text property contain the transcription. Okay, so you will have the text property, and so the text property, we have the translation. Other possible value for result is no match. No match indicating that the audio was successfully parsed but no speech was recognized, or cancelled. indicating that an error occurred, in which case you can check the properties. So how you use now the text-to-speech API, speech to text. Now we're going to talk about the text-to-speech. So let's do exactly the same thing. Okay. So the other one is text-to-speech. Text-to-speech. So it's similar to the speech to text. You have two REST API. The first one is the text to speech API, which is a primary way to perform speech synthesis. And the second one is the batch synthesis API designed to support batch operation. So let's talk about the Azure Speech SDK. So Azure with speech recognition, in practice, is more interactive speech-enabled application built in the SDK. So here you have the speech config. Okay, so the speech config encapsulates the information required to connect to your Azure resources, location, and key. We have also the audio config to define the output device for the speech. This time it's the output. Okay, so output, not input. It's not speech to text, of course. Output. By default, this is the default system speaker, but you can also specify an audio file if you want. So you can specify a stream object, audio file. By setting this value to the null value, you can process the audio stream object that is returned directly. So after you create here after the object, speech synthesis object, the object is proxy client for the text-to-speech API. And you can use the method. Okay, for example, this one. This one will use the speech services to convert text to spoken audio. You process the response from the services. In this case, the speech take this method here. Okay, this method. The result is it will be the speech synthesis result. Okay, so you will have the result. You have audio data, you have properties, reason, and result ID. So for the when speech has been successfully synthesized, the reason properties here. Okay, so the reason properties will say completed or of course here cancelled. That's it. Okay, we can talk about little about the audio format. So remember that when you're using speech, you can use speech config object. So you have a speech config and to customize the audio that is returned by the air. So the Azure speech service support multiple output format for the audio stream. Depending on your needs, you can choose a format based on the, for example, the audio file type. You can have the sample rate, and you can also use the bit depth. Okay, if you know audio, for example. So the supported format are indicated in the SDK using the speech synthesis output format enumeration. Okay, so you can say that. We have also voices. So voice, you have multi-voice that you can use to personalize the speech enable application. You have standard voice, so created for audio sample, and you have neural voice, so more natural sounding voice created using deep neural network. So voices are identified by name that indicate a local and a person name. Okay, so you can say, for example, if you want indicate a local and a person name, you can say, for example, EN like English, you say GB, and you say George, for example, George, okay, like George. So now let's finish by the last topic is the speech synthesis market language. Okay, this is a very special. So let's talk about it. So let's go. I'm going to do a small pause. So what is the speech, the SSML? So with the Azure AI Speech SDK, enable you to submit plain text. Okay, so remember that you can submit plain text to be synthesized into speech, for example, by using the I don't know the method speak text async. Okay, method. The service also support XML based syntax. Okay, so you can have also the XML, okay, based market language. So you can also use the this support also the method XML based syntax for describing characteristic of the speech you want to generate. So the SSML syntax offer greater control over how the spoken output sound. Okay, so this is how the volume and the pitch, pronunciation, speaking rate, volume, and more. So specify a speaking style, such as excited. For example, you want to have a excited, like ChatGPT side, or cheerful. You can insert pause or silence. For example, hello, my name is Fabrice. I am very happy to see you. See, and pause in silence. You can specify phoneme, so phonemes. So it's a pronunciation, for example, to pronounce the text squirrel, like squirrel, for example. So when you say SQL, you say squirrel. Okay. You can adjust the prosody, I don't remember, of the voice, affecting the pitch, timbre, and speaking rate. Use common say as rule, for example, to specify that a given string should be expressed as a date, telephone number. So you can have rules like say as. So say as number. So for example, my number is 123256, like this. And you can insert recorded speech or audio, for example, to include standard record message or simulate background noise. Wow, that's wonderful. So let's consider an example. So um, we have an example here in XML. Okay, so the SSML specify a spoken dialogue between two different neural voice. So Ariana, you can see that we have the voice name here, and the express is cheerfully. So I say tomato. Okay, I say tomato, and uh, you have after here I say, okay, alphabet. Okay, tomato. Okay, so I say tomato, pronounce tomato. Let's call the whole thing off. Okay, so and that's it. So see the string, the week. So that's a way that you can do a lot of things. So to submit a set description to the speech services, you can use the speak method. Okay, so you create this file, and to submit it, you have the speak um, SSML async method. Okay, so that's it. Okay, let's start to do the exercise. I hope that you enjoyed all what you learned. See you in the sorry, this was my recording. See you after. Ciao, ciao.